quickly ask the question, who do you think holds the all-time record for passing yards in high school football history? It is probably someone you never expected, and I guarantee he didn't even cross your mind. His name is Maty Mauk, and he was once one of the best young quarterbacks in college football. He led Missouri to the SEC championship game, and it looked like he could become one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but as quickly as it all started, he went off the deep end, was replaced, and was never heard from again. So today, we will talk about what happened to Maty Mauk. We will talk about his entire football story, his breakout years at Mizzou, and what happened to his once promising career. But first, be sure to subscribe, give the video a like, drop a comment, share it with your friends, and turn on post notifications. This will all help the video get in the algorithm so I can continue to make more stuff for you guys. But now let's get started with what happened to Maty Mauk. In a span of 121 days, the Mizzou quarterback with the best winning percentage this century was suspended 3 times and ultimately dismissed after a 3-year-old video mysteriously went viral and sabotaged his career. Mauk grew up the son of a coach, and he was meant to be a quarterback from the beginning. He was a ball boy in middle school and actually watched his brother Ben break national records. He blew up when he got to Kenton High School and would break those records for himself. He still holds the record for career passing yards and most completions, but he used to hold the touchdown record too. That was until Jake Browning came along and broke that. Despite being from a small town, the Mauks were going to be able to play high-level college football. His brother Ben played for Cincinnati, and Maty was getting serious Power 5 interest. Notre Dame was apparently interested at one point, but that was not where he would end up. He also did get a Michigan offer, but he wasn't a priority there. It really came down to Missouri, Cincinnati, and Illinois. He ended up choosing the most high-profile school of the bunch and the one with a chance to play in the SEC, so he committed to Missouri. According to 24/7 Sports, he was a 4-star recruit, the number 7 dual-threat quarterback, and the 317th best player in the class of 2012. The small-town kid was going to be going to a big-time SEC program. Going into the 2012 season, Maty decided to redshirt, but the team probably honestly could have used him. This was Missouri's first year in the SEC, but they had James Franklin at quarterback and Gary Pinkel as the coach. Franklin would get injured though, and Mizzou would have to put on their backup, and they would struggle tremendously. They got no respect and finished the season at 5-7. Going into 2013, no one really thought anything of Missouri, and James Franklin was back at quarterback. He had plenty of weapons too, including 5-star recruit Dorial Green Beckham, but they really were not supposed to do much. They started out undefeated and went into their game with Georgia ranked number 25 in the country. Mauk was the backup quarterback going into that game, but after James Franklin went down, he was all of a sudden thrusted into the game. He had to figure it out immediately and didn't have time to waste, as he could not let Georgia come back. He completed a double pass touchdown and ended up leading Missouri to one of their biggest wins ever. All of a sudden, the Tigers were the talk of the college football world, and Mauk was the starting quarterback for the foreseeable future. He made his first career start in place of injured James Franklin the following week against Florida, leading the Tigers to a 36-17 victory, and he won the SEC Freshman of the Week honors. Now they're all the way up to number 5 in the country, and they were set to take on South Carolina. Mauk played really well in that game, and they were up, but Connor Shaw led a comeback and forced overtime. While there, Mizzou missed a chip shot field goal off the upright and lost the game. Mauk would bounce back though, as he earned the SEC Player of the Week once again after he led Mizzou to a 31-3 win over Tennessee. Mauk passed for 3 touchdowns and ran for another one in the Tigers' victory. He then had one of the best games in Mizzou history against Kentucky, as he tossed 5 touchdowns, 4 of which went to Dorial Green Beckham, in a game that was over from the very beginning. James Franklin came back the following week against number 24 Ole Miss, and they would end up winning that game. They had one last test against number 21 Texas A&M, and Henry Josie would break a long touchdown to beat the Aggies, and Mizzou was headed to the SEC championship game. They would lose a shootout to Auburn in that game, but they were selected to play in the Cotton Bowl versus Oklahoma State. He threw for a touchdown in this game, and Mizzou beat the number 13 Oklahoma State Cowboys. As a redshirt freshman, he threw for 1,071 yards, 11 touchdowns, and only 2 interceptions. Going into 2013, he was the guy now, but Mizzou was not supposed to be as good as they were the year before. They would get off to a 2-0 start, including a 5-touchdown performance in a homecoming game against Toledo that I was actually at. Then he threw for 4 more against UCF, but somehow Mizzou lost to Indiana at home. They had a miracle comeback road win against South Carolina, but he had a terrible performance in a shutout against Georgia, but the team didn't give up. Anchored by their defense, they won 6 straight games, including a road win over number 24 Texas A&M, and after a comeback win over a good Arkansas team, they were headed back to the SEC championship game. They would get absolutely killed by Alabama once they were there, but Mauk did get a chance to play in the SEC's biggest game, and not a lot of other SEC quarterbacks over the years have been able to say that. He'd lead them to a victory over number 25 Minnesota in the Citrus Bowl, and he had the highest winning percentage in Mizzou history. Going into 2015, the Tigers were expected to be good, but he would have some competition from an incoming freshman by the name of Drew Lock. They would start out 3-0, but they absolutely looked terrible, and after a loss to Kentucky, people called for Drew Lock to be the starter. But sadly, this is where the downfall begins. As Mauk prepared for his junior year, his dad was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer, and all of a sudden Maty's life started to crash. He actually considered leaving Mizzou to be with his family, and then after the 4th game of the year, he ended up failing a drug test for marijuana. He said, quote, "I was dealing with my dad's illness, and I wasn't using it as an excuse, but I couldn't sleep and I used it a couple times. It was stupid, but I wasn't worried about my well-being. I was trying to keep my mind off other stuff." Mauk would be suspended and miss the next 4 games, and right after Gary Pinkel reinstated him, he got in trouble again for an incident at a bar. He said he hadn't been drinking, but a guy started yelling at him, and apparently some dude said to him, "You're going to be just like your dad." And it kind of got into an altercation, but there was a video and a report that surfaced, and he was once again suspended for the remainder of the season, and he said he couldn't even watch the team play. It also became a mess at the end of the year, as all the African American players on the team boycotted all team activities to support all the protests going on at Missouri, and at the same time head coach Gary Pinkel was diagnosed with cancer and planned to retire. It was truly a crazy mess of a year. Mauk did re-enter the picture though once Barry Odom was hired, and new offensive coordinator Josh Heupel came back and said Mauk would have a chance. He said he'd be able to compete with Drew Lock for the starting job, and it was up for grabs. But this is when the worst day of his life happened. He crashed his pickup truck just outside a team facility, injured his shoulder, and suffered a concussion. That's bad enough, but a local body shop discovered that his brakes had been damaged and he was likely sabotaged, but he didn't report it to the police. Then, later that day, he received a private message on Facebook saying that tomorrow's going to be a rough day for you. There was a 9-second clip of a video of him bent over with a line of white powder. He pretends to snort it, but holds his nose and yells. An anonymous Twitter account posted the video, and this basically ended his career. Maty said he doesn't even know who filmed it, he didn't actually snort anything, and it wasn't cocaine. This was enough to dismiss him from the team, and now he was at rock bottom. With 1 year of eligibility remaining, he did resurface at Eastern Kentucky, but things didn't go super well. He played in 2 games before he suffered a concussion and a season-ending shoulder injury. He would undergo surgery that fall, train for the NFL draft. He actually landed a contract with a team from the CFL, but nothing really happened because he blew out his shoulder just a few days into that. As quickly as it all started for him, it was over, and he had moved on from playing football. He now owns a sports performance training center where he works with kids of all ages. He's a defensive assistant coach with his dad, and he's also a real estate agent on the side. This dude is seemingly really busy, is doing things that he actually likes to do, and has completely changed his life. I think he's finally at peace with what happened, and a lot of Mizzou fans and people from around the country like to point out that he was some druggie or troublemaker, when in reality he just made a couple of mistakes. He will go down as one of the winningest quarterbacks in Missouri history, and he got to play in 2 SEC championships, which, as I said earlier, not a lot of guys have been able to do. He was one of my favorite players growing up, and it's sad to see that everything spiraled out of control for him, but I'm glad he's got his life together. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. Give the video a like before you go, share it with all your other friends, and let me know if there's another player you think I should do next. While you're still here, check out all my other What Happened to College Football videos, but until next time, peace.